You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the Meta. The Meta controls everything. The Meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching The Meta Show.
We're live!
Yay, we're live! I didn't break it again.
It's happening.
I'm always scared that I break things. We're here! Hi!
Well, let's see if people can actually hear us talking.
Yeah, no, they can't hear you.
It's
Yeah,
always
yeah,
a challenge.
they can hear you. Yes, you're good.
I'm sort of waving off there. I don't know. I wait to see when people actually say something in chat before I assume that things are good to go.
Yes,
I have learned for all these years.
No,
we
because here's the
can't
thing.
hear you.
If the
Excellent.
whole chat
Okay.
fills in with no, how does that help?
They
but
clearly can. They clearly can hear me asking, and they know what's up. So wow, I mean, this.
We're
looks
here.
much.
You're back.
We have. I am back. Yes, we had. It was a hard day's night in Milwaukee over the weekend. We had a Summer Swarm event. We had like 30+ people descended on Milwaukee. We went on a rager on Friday at Mad Planet. We went on a rager at Lacage on Saturday. There were some Sunday stragglers, and then we had the Madison Monthly Eve Meet every third Thursday, just 2 days ago. So it was essentially party all weekend, a few days of rest, another party. This is EVE Online.
Speaking of parties, we have Falcon here. Hello, Mr. Falcon. How's it going?
Hey man, how you guys doing?
I heard you party yesterday too, and then had something to make your morning horrible afterward.
Yeah, I had like the worst day in the history of mankind yesterday, basically.
Oh, boy.
I was out drinking all night last night with the EAT guys, and then it's the Reykjavik Marathon today, so they decided that they wanted to put a stage up outside, like literally directly outside of my apartment, and start broadcasting a news show and a radio show at 8 a.m. this morning. So I got in at 4:30. Got in at 4:30. Like we got like 3 hours sleep, and then all of a sudden there's this like live news thing going on outside, and I just woke up like fuck my life, just pulled the blinds down, closed all the windows, and I was just like, I hate everything.
Did you have earplugs? That's definitely an earplugs moment right there.
I just cried for a while, and then just
Prayed
dealt
for
with
death.
it.
Yeah, see, I wanted to be up at 9 a.m. because I thought I had to go to the gym today, and I had my alarm go off, and then I look over and it's like no gym today. I just went back.
Boat,
to
can you
sleep.
show us your shirt? Apparently, people in chat want to see what on earth it is you're
my
wearing.
nephew bought me this for Christmas. It's Deadpool.
You got to stand up and show it off.
Oh, it's like Deadpool or whatever. You know? See, Deadpool. It's like
I-
it looks like
I-
I'm wearing a backpack. And people always freak out at the gym. I wear this to the gym, and then people are like, "What?"
I wonder why.
I'm like basically dumb as shit because I actually thought you were wearing a backpack for the first time. That's
That's what happens. I get to the gym, and people are like,
It's like, why the fuck is Boats at his desk wearing a backpack? Like,
"Yeah, no." Yeah, he got me this for Christmas, and the funny thing is, he's 6, and he knew exactly what this was. He's like, "Yeah, I got you a Deadpool shirt. I thought Deadpool was cool, and I wanted you to have it." So I'm like, "What?"
Well, also we have more introductions before I get distracted by
Yes.
all of these, the capital fight that's happening between CO2 and Legion of Death right now. Is we also have Captain Patrick Archer here,
Yay!
who is from Triumvirate and is going to hopefully be giving us some insights. Why don't you say hello, introduce yourself?
Good day, thanks for having me. I run Tri together with Warren and Gast, and I'm the head FC of the EU time zone in Tri.
Yay!
And can you briefly tell those of us who don't know what's happening, what is currently happening as we speak right now in that war over there?
I think right this second, CU2 is killing an XX Dread Bomb. The Ezekiel hasn't loaded yet, so I don't really know how it's gonna end up, but I assume all the Dreads are dead. So yeah.
Excellent.
Death
So
to
yeah,
capitals.
we're gonna be having a whole new segment on that in a moment. But let's see. So what are we gonna be? We're at CSM news. We have Falcon as a guest. We have some discussion of the Alliance tournament, which will probably not involve me at all, and talking about war, which is always excellent. So it should be an exciting show. Let's do some shout outs
Yeah.
here before we move on to the top story. What do we got?
J-Dog for 34 months. Wow, that's a long time. Ular Eglerson is 11 months in, and then we have Zadis Ragen just joined us with Twitch Prime. Agami Ito 17 months, and then 22 months with Kevlar Lol.
Kevlar
Oh,
all 22
yeah,
months. That's
34 months is crazy. Like, there's like 3 people who are above 30 now. 33, 34, and then there's a guy with 35 months. That's a long subscription.
That is a
Ooh.
long time. And
Lumino Flux,
Lumino
27.
Flux for 27.
Yay! All right, so as we move forward, we jump into today's top story, and today's top story is going to be our guest.
Indeed. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Yay! So right as you said that, Rum Waffle's 34 months. Like, this is crazy. That's almost 3 years of time. But yeah, so Falcon, how's it going? It's been a while. I haven't seen you since Vegas.
Yeah, man. Like, you haven't seen me since last year, literally. Yeah, it's
That's a good point.
super busy, man. We've had so much going on, so I've just been like absolutely rammed with work. To the point where there's all this cool war stuff going on, and I just haven't been able to keep up with it. I've been so busy. So I'm just like, I'm seeing battle reports appear. I'm seeing people throwing shit at each other on Reddit, and it's just, it's been nuts. So I'm just kind of slowly easing my way back into it in the run up to Vegas, because it's looking like it's going to be an eventful summer.
So, Mitch, you weren't here last week, and Falcon pointed this out right before the show. You missed some hilarity. They invited me on the Open Comm show to talk about the war in the North, and they also invited Doom Chinchilla and Grath Telkin on the show. And I just started being boat, and Grath lost his
Do you ever stop?
mind. Now, Grath got so mad. Like normal Grath mad, and then there's, like, going nuclear, and I don't even know what I did. I think it was because I was just mixing in, like, I was being like Dan Brown. I was mixing in facts with falsities, and I was doing it so well that
So you were being vote, and Grath got mad, and I don't know.
And then he stormed off set. It was just like he was so angry, and he was screaming.
Falcon there at the time? I'm not sure that we had a segue from Falcon is here to Grath
sorry.
got mad at vote.
The Falcon told me that he had seen it, and I'm just curious. Like, what do you think of? Is this normal Grath mad, or is this explosion Grath mad?
I mean, like, I actually saw a replay when it got posted to REVE, and I started watching it, and I was just like, yeah, wow, okay. But yeah, I mean, like, Grath is a colourful guy, but yeah, he can get out of order sometimes. I mean, we've seen it in the past before, and he's just I think he needs to, like, as we would say back where I'm from, calm his tits a little bit. Definitely, he needs to chill out and relax a bit, because yeah, he can get himself into some trouble.
Wait, real quick then, are you Australian by chance?
Am I Australian?
No. Go ahead, sorry. No, this is bad because, I'm sorry if I'm being offensive here. My girlfriend's Australian, and she says that to me. You need to call him your tits. You're getting angry, so...
Only Australians use that idiom.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure.
You have to get a special permit from one of their ministries of calming your tits in order to be allowed to use that if you're not...
Yeah, I mean, I've never heard a British person say that before, ever in my life.
I haven't. No, I haven't. That's why I was wondering. I'm sorry.
I got nothing. So yeah, I mean, Grath gets mad Grath gets mad about stuff. News at 11. I didn't watch the video, and I personally don't care. Grath gets mad at lots of things, and it's not surprising. Like like me wearing a red shirt is about as surprising as Grath being mad at things. So, you know. Let's talk about let's talk about things that are actually relevant to our guest.
Yes, sorry.
I mean, before we get into any specifics of anything, Falcon, can you tell, for those of you, for our viewers who haven't necessarily been paying attention, you've been working on the Alliance tournament. Tell us a little about what you're doing at CCP these days, please.
Yeah. So my work is the community manager for CCP. I'm primarily focused on EVE Online, and I basically deal with everything for community for EVE. So all of our communication strategy. I have a little bit of oversight in the CSM, but generally CCP Guard and CCP Logi Pro handle that for us. And I basically just take care of everything forward-facing community-wise. So all of our news, our information, our dev blogs, all of our comms plan and that kind of stuff. And I also act as the program director for FanFest and eVegas too. So yeah, it's a busy old life.
Well, it's going to be pretty exciting. I mean, eVegas is just around the corner. I mean, it sort of snuck up on us, right? I mean, first week of October, thereabouts.
I am excited for
tell
eVegas.
Me about it.
Are you excited?
You've been to the link, right? I mean, you've actually scouted the venue out, I assume.
Yeah. I mean, we've taken a good look at the place. We think it's going to be awesome. And I mean, the size of the crowd we've got coming this year is ridiculous. So yeah, I mean, I just hope everyone can fit in.
That is, I think, a Goons Are Fat joke. I hope, anyway. So speaking of questions, one of our people in chat here has asked a serious question about, you say you're a community manager for CCP, but also mainly EVE, but other things. So what other games does CCP manage communities for?
So we have a couple of people based in the UK who deal primarily with Valkyrie. Then we have one of our team who's based in Atlanta, who's currently dealing with Spark. And then we're also looking at what we're going to do for Project Nova when it becomes a thing in the future. So we'll also be looking at community for that down the line as well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's pretty busy. We've got people spread across pretty much all of our offices. And we're basically part of a larger team called the communications team at CCP that deals with media relations, PR, community, and everything else forward facing.
Does Spark? I mean, is it out? Like, are you guys like managing a community for Spark before the game is released, or what's the story? We're getting some questions here. What is Spark, etc.?
So basically, we're currently not actually managing a community for Spark, but we're doing like preliminary work towards one. And basically, Spark is effectively not so much a game, but a virtual esport, which is primarily a game of kind of throwing balls at each other. It's full body VR PvP, and it's just a case of two guys in an arena trying to outwit each other by throwing projectiles at each other and trying to dodge.
I'm curious about that. I mean, the idea, people say a lot of different activities go into managing communities or doing community work or community outreach. And so the reason I'm asking this is I'm curious if you could tell us maybe, and I know you're not on that team, but what sort of prep work goes into preparing to do community management work for a game that hasn't been released yet? We don't need anything NDA or anything here, but I'm just curious how that works.
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, you've got to think about a communication strategy for launch as well. Like, what do you want to put out? When do you want to put it out? What venues do you want to start utilizing? I mean, do you want to keep for some smaller titles? A lot of game studios just keep themselves on a subreddit, for instance. There's quite a few smaller titles that will just have a subreddit. They won't host official forums, and they'll just use sort of pre-packaged software like Reddit to be able to interact with their community. Then, for larger titles, you end up with your own forums or bulletin boards. You've got to think about a social media presence, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram most of the time as well. And then you've got to start thinking about Twitch, what you want to stream, how you want to stream it, which can be for VR at least, it can be a really big challenge because it's really hard to get the experience of VR across through a Twitch stream because you're not really seeing much other than the point of view, and you're not fully immersed in it because you're watching it through a second set of eyes on a 2D screen. So it can be, that's been a big challenge for us actually. So
how does that work? I mean, that seems like the exact same challenge that there's news that's come down that EVE Valkyrie is being converted into not VR. So that transition that you're talking about, the challenge of streaming in that, how does that apply to the Valkyrie situation?
I mean, well, that challenge kind of goes away because you can now stream in 2D. And the guys in Newcastle have been working really, really hard on getting kind of parity in terms of game balance between VR and non-VR. And we've had a few internal playtests. We've had a few community members have come to the Newcastle studio. They've looked over it. They've tried it out in advance. We've also got an influence event going on at Gamescom this week as well. So we've got a few people over trying it out. And we've got media over there at Gamescom too to try Warzone out. So yeah, it's not really working too badly at all. I mean, I've played Valkyrie in I guess what you would call 2D. And it's very, very comparable to the VR experience. You just don't have that full kind of wraparound immersive experience. It's more akin to like Afterburner or Ace Combat in 2D than it is to like a full VR experience. But it's pretty cool.
I remember when I did the VR at FanFest when it first came out to FanFest of doing Valkyrie, and it was so trippy to like look around and like see your hands. So that's an aspect I think that adds to it. But I think the game without VR will get more people played too, because like my brother has a VR set, but I don't have one yet. I could use one, but
Well, let's shift things back
Yep,
to
yep,
Eve here
yep.
for a moment. So I know that you at some point had been working on CSM stuff, and that by doing community things, you're still involved, sort of. I mean, the big news that we had hit today, which
Yeah.
was a member of the CSM, the Council of Stellar Management, was removed for cause, apparently. That being Vince Draken, the leader of NC Dot. And for a little bit of background here, I mean, Vince Draken is actively leading fleets in Eve. There is a war in Tribute. We are peeing on fire hydrants up there. So I was a little surprised to find out that, because I mean, Vince is active in the game, and apparently it turns out he was removed from the CSM. What can you tell us about this? I understand that it's a sensitive subject. What can you tell us, Falcon?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. I mean, he was obviously removed from the CSM for an activity. He hasn't been too active with us, and it's unfortunate. But you know, part of our white paper and part of electing someone and throwing them onto the CSM is we expect them to have sort of a minimum amount of interaction with CCP. They have a minimum amount of input, and they're attended meetings and being involved with the actual discussions that are happening. And it's actually been pretty crazy this year. But this CSM has been pretty balanced. It's got a really good group of people on it. It's been super level-headed. We've actually got a lot done. Whether or not that's, you know, being presented in front of the scenes, definitely behind the scenes, there's been a lot of discussion, and there's been a lot of involvement with the CSM. So, yeah, I mean, it was super surprising just to see that he was either too busy with Eve or he had other stuff going on. But yeah, just inactivity basically. So yeah, it's got to go.
An interesting thing about it is a lot of questions on this on Reddit came up is who's next in line to take his place? Would that be, is it Sword Dragon or someone else?
You'll find that out when we announce it.
Oh, okay, because it has it here. It's like eliminated in round 11 would be Sword Dragon, and round 12 was this guy. And then also, does that mean that because everyone is boarding the plane today to go to FanFest, is Vince not going then in that case, or?
Yeah, I mean, we'll have, generally what we did was, going back a couple of years, I think it was it this CSM or last CSM? I can't remember, but we modified the white paper, and we reduced the actual size of the council from 14 to 10 people. And that was because a while back, we brought the entire council out when it was 14 people. It was before before Ascension, and when we went into the sort of looking at open access to even allowing people to play for free. We brought the whole CSM out because it was super important and we wanted to talk to them all. And we found that having everyone in the room rather than having remote participants really got people talking, it got people interacting, it got people engaged, and it didn't feel like anyone was being left out. So what we did was we then thought, okay, we'll drop the size of the CSM to 10 people, and then we can guarantee bringing every single delegate out every year. And it means that you guys get more bang for your buck. So it's, that's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's a good thing to see. I mean, it is interesting that, in your view, the CSM is doing good work this year, which is good to see.
Yeah.
And now we all know, because of the events of today, that nothing that happened out of the CSM had anything to do with dear old Vince. So
yeah, an interesting one here too is we just saw this announced to kind of like segue into interesting things. CCP. The guy in charge of the Alliance tournament just said that as they were wrapping up that you have an announcement for tomorrow. Anything you could hint to about that today, or is it going to be something we'll have to catch tomorrow during the Alliance tournament?
No, it's definitely something for tomorrow.
Okay.
But there's probably be a little bit more information about eVegas, a few other things, so it should be fun.
Cool. And then a quick thing here about a topic that came up the last couple of weeks with our fight in the North. We're seeing 2,400 to 2,800 people in every fight in LoSec. We drop one of those thumper citadels that Mittens decides to drop, and everybody just shows up, even people not involved. And one of the big things that people were complaining about is Crime Watch. Do you have anything you could comment about? Like, are they looking at Crime Watch? Are they thinking about Crime Watch right now? Like, is it a problem with that many people, or is it just a thing where it's like Crime Watch works, rip?
Yeah, I mean, at this stage, as far as I'm aware, it's not on anyone's roadmap to look at it. It's a system that works, and it's a system that does what it's intended to do. I mean, it's definitely something that people can bring up with the CSM if they feel that it's important, especially given that we're like going into a summit on Monday. So if people do want to bring it up and they do want to have a discussion about it, then there'll be a big group of devs who work on it around a table that will be very open to a discussion, I would imagine. But from my point of view, as far as I'm aware, at least from speaking to development on a daily basis, it's not really on anyone's roadmap right now to take a look at it because it's not considered a problem.
Yeah, I didn't see it as
It's
a problem either.
it's purely a performance issue kind of thing.
Cool.
Okay,
I mean,
so
this is a fight that we constantly have. I mean, I can remember the days when, it was, we were fighting the Great Northern War, it was 50 on 50 and TQ would crap itself when you had 100 people on grid. Then, you upgrade hardware, you get to 500 versus 500, and when you can get 500 versus 500 into a system, naturally EVE players will bring 600 versus 600, and we're in a constant fight against this to try and up the capacity for solar systems. So yeah, it's an interesting one for us, but yeah, we've just got to try and keep ahead of it.
So I guess we got a couple of other questions here for you about the Alliance tournament, but I think can you just tell us how do you think things went there? You're also very dark right now. You're mysterious. I see. Yes, and also I can see your mouth moving, but I can't hear anything.
Yeah, I'm just getting clawed to death by my cat. So for a second there, he's a little
excellent.
Terrible little.
The cat is upset about the round situation.
I think he was upset the Brave went out today. Yeah, I mean, the tournament's been great so far. Big shout out to the guys over at EVE-NT. I think they did a fantastic job with the first 2 weekends. And then kind of handed the mantle over to us for the finals. And yeah, it's been super interesting so far. Been a couple of upsets. I was surprised to see PL go out. I was horrified to see how badly NC's matches went today, quite frankly. I was pretty surprised that they
were you expecting what do they do? Explain to our audience and explain to little old me who knows very little about Alliance tournament things. What did NC do that was so horrifying and how they lost? Did they play in a stupid way? Was it just an accident? Like what happened?
I think it was just their second match just felt to me like when I was watching it just like weird target calling. They started to they just kind of fell apart. I'm kind of wondering whether it was sort of a psychology thing between DHB Wildcat and his former bros at Hydra or whatever. I'm not sure, but yeah, it just seemed like the target calling was really off. And yeah, they burned for it, unfortunately.
So that is a bad day for NC, losing a CSM and getting knocked out in a humiliating way.
And the interesting thing too is they got knocked out by what a lot of people consider to be PL's Team 2. Which you have like Hydra, because like Blue Melon's on that team. Blue Melon is a notable PLFC super pilot. And then you have PL Team 3, which is Vidra Reloaded. So you have like all these other like XPL low-sec PvPers beating NC in a pretty awesome fashion. That was fun to watch. What is your favorite team like comp to see come out so far, Mr. Falcon?
I've actually been loving what Hydra have been bringing, where they've just gone like all-out brawl with no logistics. I've been really enjoying like the big battle cruiser groups they've been bringing out, because I just kind of find like, although they don't really work under the rules we've got this year too well, like I find the Tinker stuff really boring. I just like a full frontal like punch in the face brawl where you're just like trading ship losses constantly and the match doesn't even last 5 minutes. I just like to see really decisive stuff.
Yeah, my favorite so far has been the one with the Chameleon, the 2 Rooks, and the 2 Sacrileges. Because I just think it's amazing to watch a Balgorn team that can spend 50 bill plus on a Balgorn, or they can have these 2 Ballin Vindicators, and they can't even move. They can't go anywhere. They just have these 2 glorious Sacrileges sitting in their face, keeping them from going anywhere. And it was wonderful to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's super brutal, especially when you get like, I mean, there was, I think it was one of the matches today, you had the combination of like a Guardian, a pair of Rooks, and then like a Prophecy that was brick tanked, and then 2 Sacrileges.
And then the Chameleon.
And you're just not going to chew that. And then the Chameleon, you're just not going to chew through that.
It was great. So for the viewers that don't know, Chameleon is think of a Gila that can jam, and then you have the 2 Rooks. So you had shitloads of jams. They were all Amarr jammed from what I heard. So they were intentionally jamming the Balgorn comp that showed up to fight it. And then they had the Prophecy and 2 Sacrileges. And the Sacrileges have been used in this tournament just to hold things still. Because you don't want to shoot them. They're just big, giant brick tanks. And they just sat on top of the Balgorn, and the Ribisu just held onto it, and then eventually killed the Ribisu, and it was glorious to watch. That was the NC match, by the way. But yeah, I was so excited to watch that.
Oh, I wanna throw a question over here to
sure.
Captain Patrick Archer. Did Tri have anything to do with this tournament?
No, we didn't really have anyone. There was a couple of guys, but they decided to go with a different team this year. And I've been busy with the war, so I haven't really even watched this one.
Well, that's good. That means that I'm not the only one here. That's good. All right. So with that wonderful segue then of alliance leader types going tournaments, let's give some shout outs and then we'll swap over to the Nullsec Power Hour.
Edu for 9 months and Psychobabble just subscribed with a Twitch Prime subscribe. Thank you very much.
Booyah.
I think that's everyone for today. So we move on to the Nullsec Power Hour, and of course, thanks Falcon for updates. You're welcome to stay and chat about wars, because that's all we're going to talk about.
I hope he does stay, because
yes.
otherwise there'll be a gaping hole on and he's petting his kitten, or he was a few minutes ago, so like even if he's just sitting there petting the cat, you get to be amused. Cats are cute.
Yeah,
so the Nullsec Power Hour starts off immediately. The big topic of today, because of what happened today, is the Southern War, and our friend Captain Archer is here to talk about all this. First things first.
What the hell is what the hell? Actually, Captain Patrick Archer, why don't you just
go ahead.
Tell us, how did this war start? What is going on? Just start from the beginning, because the beginning was fairly recent.
Well, so I think it started 2 weeks ago with CO2 attacking Gemico renters in Fatabolus. When Test moved north, basically, they just started the war, and around that time, I think we were on the Meta Show, me and Gast, announcing that we were going to reset everyone, and at that time, literally, there was set up, obviously, during the stream. I think the FCON announced that they were joining the DRF. And we were like, okay, so now we're living in the middle of this massive coalition. That's fine. Like, now we have a target, because we had to act, obviously. Can't live in the middle of that. So instantly FCON became the target, and then CO2 told FCON, hey, if you stay out of this Fatabolus war, we're gonna leave you alone if you don't touch our shit, because they had some sort of gentleman's agreement. And then basically FCON or some of their pets decided that it was a good idea to Entosa's Impasse, which is CO2's home region. Obviously, Gigex being in charge of CO2 instantly did instantly told them, like, you're gonna get fucked over now. So basically, they hit us up, we hit them up. You want to work together versus FCON, and I think a week ago, XX fully deployed their Dread fleet to Fatabolus, which is fine if the other side only has Dreads. But as you can tell by the battle report, which I'm sure you guys are gonna link in a sec, that CO2 has supers in the area, so they just decimated the Dread fleet, like literally 30 minutes.
Here's this.
This has been AZN, here.
This has been a rapid development, because again, like he says, you were just on the show a couple weeks ago. You and Garth being the other guy in charge of this wonderful tri group, and you reset everyone. In the process of resetting everyone, FCON immediately goes, oh, we're going to blow up all the DRF, because Solar is still going to be blue to Tri, so that'll keep us safe from getting invaded by Tri. If we're in the DRF, they won't think of touching us. It's no big deal. And then, like, a week later, it's like, oh, we're invading FCON.
Yeah, what's really weird about these drone alliances, whenever I look at anything involving the DRF, is it's just frankly, it's a shit show. Of, like, you see, like, Legion of Death, and then you just see just a pile of totally random, like, who the fuck are these people in terms of alliance?
I don't know, we've been part of them for like 2 years, but it's really hard to keep track. So we were extremely happy that we could reset all these people, or because we were blue to like half of them. And then 2 weeks later, they get involved in a war, so we have to -5 all of them again. So we had to go through them all over again, so it was great.
Yeah, so right as the show was starting, for those that have been watching, 2 things happened that were pretty noteworthy. Tri went a little bit north of where the war is fighting right now. The war is down in Imensia. And they went a little north in the battle reports right here and killed 4 supercarriers. So how the hell did you catch 4 supercarriers? Were they just like gating somewhere? Like what
I wasn't there personally, but I asked the story because I knew he was going to ask. So basically what happened, apparently FAS, being a Russian group, they came from you guys, I think? I can't remember.
It's OEG.
Yeah. OEG. So they're their own group now, and they were roaming Fraternity. And we've been kind of talking to Fraternity a little bit, but yeah, so Fraternity told them in local, because they were doing the local smack talk as you do when you're killing someone else, and they said, well, if you're so tough, why don't you just drop supers? And obviously then the inner Russian kicked in, so OEG dropped supers on them, on Fraternity. Fraternity kept them tackled for like 5 minutes while we rage formed and bridged over and killed them. The fourth one hasn't loaded, but I'm being told that was the first one to die.
Yeah, shady to hell. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. So that's so that was that.
Yeah, it's.
Well, this is a good segue here, talking about these battles and these drops, from something that Drew Q2 is asking for Falcon here, which is, we know that in community you're not a server guy, Falcon, but can you tell us a little bit about how CCP allocates resources, if you know it, in anticipation of these fights, or do you guys only rely on like the notification tool?
I mean, we generally tend to rely on the notification tool, but if we know something really big's coming up, then it's easy enough for us to remap systems away from what's happening. Typically, what will happen is when you submit a fleet fight notification, it's pretty much just an automated service. Tranquility will look at what you've selected, what system you've selected, and it'll basically map it to its own node the next downtime. And then what we can do as well, manually, if we see a big fleet forming, is we can look at what node a system is on and then map all the other systems on that node away from it, so that you just have that one system on the node and all of its resources are dedicated to the fleet fight.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, sort of one other thing here I want to throw out there, which is, sorry, but
go ahead.
Try used to be allied with FCON, right?
Well, that's a big statement. We were sometimes helping each other. Like, we had a couple blues, but we never really had FCON blue. So we just help out in fights to see which. I don't know. We tend to not blob on top of the biggest blob. If we can help the little guy and then win with that guy, that we try to do that. And FCON was one of the situations.
Garst worded it really well, Mittens. He said it was blue, not blue. So like we never officially had them color blue, but we would help them.
What we call that in this day, in the year of our Lord 2017, is blue troll. Blue troll.
I've never heard that one. Okay, yeah.
Cords came up with that one, I think. But so I'm wondering that was the setup for the question of what was it like? I mean, in combat, you've been FCing in this war so far. What's it like being blue troll to FCON, to shooting them and seeing them on the other side of your guns?
Well, I think everyone was really excited. I don't know. We've been poking each other for some fights in the last while, but like obviously when you're doing fun fights, you don't really commit everything. But now that they made that announcement, we're joining the DRF. Everybody in Trial was like, "Well, what the hell?" So yeah, everybody's really excited to fight them, and we had our first super fight versus. Well, we had supers, they didn't, but I'm just gonna call it a super fight versus them the other day. Yeah,
you got your Fortizar online. Is that Fortizar like in a place where like it's easy for you to bridge to the fights, or is it like what's it for?
It was actually, that was wrong on Reddit. It was actually a CO2 Fortizar, but yeah, we helped them online it.
Okay. Yeah, so link in the battle port right here. If you guys didn't notice this, you had the CO2 armor supers combined with the shield supers, the glorious Wyvern and Hellblob, which I love shield supers, and everyone seems to hate them, but I love them. I think they're the greatest thing ever to happen in the game. Especially Leviathans. And so this has just been a crazy thing. So you have a war in the north going on where it's kind of like drop thumper citadels, wait for fight to happen. But in the south, it just seems like it's an interesting situation. So the question I have here then is, and this is for Mr. Archer, we know CO2's history. GigX tends to just do what GigX wants to do. And there's no real comparison in real life to how GigX acts. I mean, one day he's blue to you, the next day he's throwing a knife in your back and selling you out to PL. How does that work for you, like when you're fighting FCON? Because a lot of people have commented that this is a war for who gets to have a home down here. You know, so if CO2 loses this, they're kicked out. You know, and then that along with you guys helping CO2 probably won't look as good on you guys. So how does this work? You know, if you guys win, I mean, what happens?
Yeah, we'll see what happens if we win. But we went into this like it's a do or die war. But like if we lose our shit as well. So that's why obviously we intend to win. Yeah, I mean, well, I don't know. I think we expected to have 0 friends because that's we tend to have helping us, or we're helping them right now, is good. And then we'll see how long it lasts. But so far, it's been a good relationship. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know who to cheer for in this particular war because, I mean, FCON are fence sitters, CO2 are traitors. Other than to get popcorn and sit back and watch all of these people murder each other is pretty much a win for the Imperium. As far as I'm
Yeah.
concerned.
Sorry about how loud that was. So that I tried to warn them. Apparently, if you get a really large cheer, which is a lot of money, it makes a very loud sound. And I warned production guys that this is going to be loud, and they're like, "Oh, it's fine." No, that was loud, and I'm sorry if it was really loud. I do apologize. So then the question is this. So I got called a traitor by Asher last week on the Meta Show because I said, if I had the option between killing CO2 or FCON, who would I kill? And I said I'd fucking bomb FCON. Like, why not? And he says, no, of course you would kill CO2. Like, burn CO2. But that's the hard part here. That's the question. It's like, you have FCON, who in the last war were about as dumb as a box of rocks. They didn't come help us. They complained that it was our fault. They spent months and months saying it was our fault. And then you have, there's the cat. Wonderful cat.
So that was only in the last one.
Yeah, so now it's like, who would you help? Would you death the CO2 or death
Well,
the
I mean,
FCON?
I'd like to in a situation like that where there are two sides that are enemies, you look at the facts and circumstances of the battle, and then you see which side you can jump in on to do more damage. So, like, if you can swing the balance such that ideally both sides suffer as much as possible, that's what you do. FCON jumped ship. We've got a lot of good people. The good people who were in FCON are now all in the Imperium and have been for a long time. So I see FCON and CO2 as just being, it's a matter of time scale. FCON jumped off the fence before CO2 did. CO2 made a big, large backstab. But you don't have to worry about being a traitor boat. One of the joys of autocracy is that only I get to decide who's a traitor.
But it was a joke, obviously, because, of course, death to Gigax. But because it was funny, because last week when we had a major brawl, you weren't here. Gigax was actively helping us. He joined the test fleet, and he was telling us where supers were. He was PMing me on Skype. So it was kind of ironic in that sense. But I looked at it this way. This is a dank leak coming out of me. Someone told me I had to word it this way, okay? It's an Intel thing. Blame Intel. So, FCON recently posted, this is from Tarquinius, which of course is their CEO. He announced that as soon as CO2 is dead, goons are next, because goons are the reason this is happening. And I don't know how that's a thing, but apparently that's his mindset on this.
Who's coming after us? I'm sorry, I missed it. I was too busy cringing.
Or not CO2, Tarquinius, the CEO of FCON.
Bring it.
Apparently, goons are next in his opinion. We're gonna lose all our space because of this. Go ahead.
Waiting on that payment to attack FCON.
I'm sorry, you cut out there.
I'm still waiting on that payment to attack FCON from you guys.
I have no idea.
This is just funny because look. When you look at this war, and I'm glad you guys decided to join CO2 because that really does balance. Like, if you guys would have invaded CO2 would have been dead within a couple weeks, right? They would have lost everything. They're kind of a landlocked country. When we were talking about this last week, we pointed out that CO2 is fortunate. No NPC space can reach them, right? They're a landlocked country in terms of where they can sit. And we even started going as far as naming all of the alliances at EVE after various countries. Like, we used China and Russia and the United States. And we talked about how, CO2 is like in the middle of Africa, like in this landlocked country, and they're surrounded by enemies, and they really have to they can't really just leave, right? They have to fight their way out, but they're also protected in some way. So you look at a situation where CO2 is pretty good in terms of they can't be hit from low sec, they can't be hit from NPC 00, and then when Tri joins in, Tri comes in from the top, it balances things out pretty hard. Where does XIX go from here? In your opinion, Archer, do they like supers?
Well, we'll see about that, maybe, but I assume where they always go is just hire whoever the fuck's available. Like, right now, you're keeping everyone busy, but as soon as you go home, I assume that they'll hire as much as they can. I don't know, or they could just decide, yeah, you know what, 2 years ago, our border stopped at Ethereum Reach, and we're the Drone Region Federation, we hold the drone lands, and we're fine with that now again, or not, and they just try to drastically keep their border in Fatabulas for some reason when living in Gemini.
Yeah, this is interesting because, Mins, I'll ask you this: if we go home tomorrow, let's just say somehow something happens, we go home tomorrow. NC Dot is pretty good bros with Tri, and you have PL who's been always friends of XIX. So where does that put the North in retrospect of what's going on in the South? I mean, who goes where? What do you think?
Well, I mean, I've already seen PL guys on, I think, Talking in Stations earlier, or maybe it was one of the other talk shows when earlier today making noises about possibly being hired. I think people want to get away from fighting against the Imperium because we bring misery wherever we go. So I think there's this real desire to have us leave and declare victory and then get hired. Like PL loves working as mercenaries. I think that they want to go dunk on whoever. I mean, it would be either CO2 if they're hired by Legion of Death, I guess. It's GigX likes to throw super capitals around. It's a good target. I don't know. I mean, strategically speaking, the chessboard is a little weird right now. I mean, this is a thing that I linked it earlier in response to a question, but I wrote a war update for the Imperium a couple of days ago, basically just sort of giving an overview of what the hell has been going on and why. And so you've seen just a tremendous amount of deploying and redeploying from a number of entities, all within the last 3 weeks, right? Like previously you had PL, Horde, Guardians of the Galaxy, which includes Darkness and a whole bunch of other garbage like Blades of Grass, up north fighting in Venal with Test staging out of MTO and Paragon, attacking Venal and into Declan. And then Initiative fighting MC and NC Dot and Syndicate, and then we deployed, and then suddenly Syndicate is seeded, but CCP is totally going to be removing moons inside of 30 days, so taking Syndicate doesn't matter at all, much like losing their CSM doesn't matter at all, much like losing the Alliance tournament doesn't matter at all. I am certain that none of this will impact NC Dot's glorious successes. Yeah, so anyway, all these fronts collapsed, and Test moved to Obi right next to Hakonnen. Syndicate was seated, and so now everybody who is not involved in this war in the east / south is basically just sort of stuck staring over trenches at each other from Losec and from MTACO. So I don't think it's sustainable. I don't really care though. Because
I think it's interesting too. You speak of like Test collapsing in their front. I honestly think Test was looking for an exit strategy. Like, not to say Pro God's terrible, we all know he is, but he tends to like make these grand like deployments. He did this in Delve right after the last war, and then he did this up north where he marches an entire alliance somewhere, parks, goes, oh shit, here's 1,000 people coming at me versus my 200. And then turns around and looks for the best way out. And I think Ob was his way out. Like, he could be like, oh, we're going to go to Ob, and we're going to be near Goods, and we're going to do things in Vale. And then if Ob doesn't go well, now we're in low sec, we can get the fuck out of here, right? We can go home.
Well, it's kind of a weird situation. Somebody was saying that might have been Killa B or something was on one of the talk shows earlier talking about like Test moving away. I don't know if that's going to happen. We are essentially shooting the same assholes. Like, we have a small channel of communication with Test, but we're not doing any sort of op coordination or anything like that. I thought it was sort of nice to be on the same side. It seemed like the line members in Test and our guys were happy to bury the hatchet in PL and NC Dot's back. It would be disappointing if they move away. I think they only got to Ob last week, but that's I don't know what's happening. I don't know the facts. I don't want to point fingers and say who is responsible for what may or may not be.
Well, I'm looking at history, right? Like, Pro God has a long storied history of I just spilled water everywhere. Long story history of doing these big deployments, then up like a week later when he realizes they just aren't going well, he'll vanish and the deployment just falls apart. And that's what it's looking like here. I mean, I don't speak for what's going on with us.
I think he got surprised. Obviously, like, we tried to go north as well. We got blubbed as well. Like, it happens, and I told him, like, you need some friends if you're going to go there, because,
block warfare.
If you go for a deployment, they don't give it, like, nobody does, really. It's a lie. The deployment's a lie, but, he didn't believe me.
I don't know what happened with Boat. He's trying to clean something up.
I had a glass of water for the show. I always try to have a glass of water because I don't drink enough water every day, or I try to drink enough water. And I literally was laughing, and I hit my water glass and just went. Psst. I have a glass top desk, so it's easy to clean up. I just have to grab a towel. But that's the thing here. So I didn't understand the Pro God move, and now that we have our wonderful friends in CO2 here to talk, or not CO2, try to talk about it. They did the same thing you did. The same exact thing. They went north going, okay, R100 200 guys, 300 at the most, are going to fight the whole freaking North, and we're going to win. And we saw from what happened with Tri is that when you guys went North, you got blobbed. Like, there were 900,000 dudes coming at you every day. And then that's happened with Test. And the Test
Well,
is...
I don't think that's a fair statement. I mean, the tactical reality was that when Test was deployed in MTO, that because Darkness and Guardians of the Galaxy are shit, they were making progress. Darkness had to deploy a Keepstar in WLF in Venal and was advancing there, and then they scampered back to Declan to CCP when we announced we were deploying because they didn't know where we were going. But they were having to call in help from PL and Horde against Test because Test had chosen a very weakened, geographically isolated flank. So it is simply not factual to say they were occasionally outnumbered when Darkness would bat phone, but we would not have, the Imperium would not have deployed north in the first place if it looked like the Test salient into Venal and Declan was doomed from the start.
Going to MTO was always like the coward move, I guess, because you could have moved into actual Venal and then instantly use like your dreads into Venal and Branch, but you can't actually hit that from MTO, so you need to take a gate, which puts you like at super risk from Guardians of the Galaxy supers. And obviously when we were there, like PL was kind of helping us shoot Guardians of the Galaxy, but Test doesn't have that luxury, I guess. So they're just getting farmed by all the supers in the north.
Yeah, that was an interesting bit too. Is Test had a relationship with XIX. They blew the whole Drone regions to get to where they were going. But I guess the deal they had with XIX was, as long as you don't hit Sov and try to take someone's home away, you're good to do whatever you want. So go, basically, good fights, shoot citadels, that kind of thing. Which was surprising, because if Test had, say, like, went to Tenal, for example, and hit Tenal from the northern drones, you can't drop a Keepstar in WLF, because that doesn't matter. That's still 3 Sinos away from northern Tenal. Like, it's an ass load away, whereas MTO is only 1 Sino away. So I thought that was an interesting choice of places, you know?
Yeah, but then you'd attack, like, the Crablands for Kilby Bosons' havens. Like, you don't do that, because then they come south, and you lose all your
because I mean, the challenge with this stuff ultimately is that in the disgusting abomination that is Fozzie-Sov. I love saying that when we have a CCP guest.
I love Fozzie-Sov. Don't start. Come on now.
So because Fozzie-Sov is a disgusting abomination, the only way, like, whenever you go to war to get kills or to do damage to people, there is no real end game, right? Like, you can go there and you blow up some stuff and maybe you rack up some stuff on your kill boards. Yeah. You can take some moons if you can hold them. But Test going up north, the only options they really had, because they can't take and hold the space, because you can only take and hold space that you intend to live in forever in the Sov system, which really cuts down on real war. So they could only do damage. They could knock over tables. They could blow things up. Maybe they could whack some Sotios. They could go hunting for Titans and things like that. But one of the challenges of this pathetic Sov system is that the only wars which have conclusions are those where someone is looking to take and hold a home that they intend to occupy. And it just gets worse when there are less people in nullsec, then there's less people to occupy territory. So it's sort of, I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing so many major fights in lowsec in this day and age, is everybody's sort of, the jig is up. But I would love to hear why Fozzie-Sov is excellent.
Why? Look, this is my view, and it's shared actually by a couple of people that are enemies of ours, as far as like a couple of FCs that I know around EVE. It's that you can instill so much misery with Fozzie-Sov if you do it right.
That is basically all you can do. You can't take somebody's territory and
no. But misery,
but you can make them suffer. You
can make them suffer, and you can crush their wallets. So you look at what happened at CVA. CVA lost almost $1 trillion ISK just at iHub upgrades that they had to replace completely, and they lost all their jump bridges. They lost all their Sino beacons. They lost all their Sino jammers for 5 weeks. So for that period of time, that whole territory becomes like an open season for anyone that wants to drop on it. You can't.
True, but all of our FCs wanted to uninstall the game because of hacking.
Well, hacking
even on offense is just.
Well, you look at that's defending, but if you took
no attacking, like we attacked CVA, we purged all their iHubs.
I was there. I loved it.
And our FCs were like, this is garbage. Well, that was before the rise of the fax hacker, which makes it easier.
But I mean, if you look at if you look at think of it like like a blackboard, right? Every time we would kill an iHub, I would like tick a tick mark and be like, that's 1, that's 2, that's 3, that's 5, yay, and then do the next. You know, so like for me it was.
Captain
like
Patrick
tallies.
Archer, you're about to say something there. What were you?
Like, so you could like that's I agree, that's nice, but you can do that with the old subsystem too. You could also kill iHubs, and I think that all the block level FCs, at least like the ones that love to fly capitals around, are just sad that they can't just drop their dreads, their supers, their titans in pretty much every fight. Like they can up to a point now with citadels again. So I'm really excited about that, especially if you're defending, you just drop everything. So that's a nice change, and I don't know.
I see iHubs as a balance thing, right? So as an attacker, I can turn it into a fucking 10-hour contest if I choose to, and just make life miserable. We saw this recently with one of our prominent multi-boxers. You know, NC Dot was bridging on average like 10 rapiers every few minutes because they were losing them so fast, to send them out there to hack, and then still getting hit by all these little, like, you almost call them like pinpricks, right? 1,000 cut paper cuts, you know? It just becomes miserable. It becomes a battle of effort. And if you get a group that really wants to make life miserable, they can do it really well. And then Fozzie is amazing.
Like, it's nice to kill people and take their homes and stuff, but if you make them like want to uninstall the game, which is actually true, like that, I'm sure your FC said that, and plenty of other FCs have said so too. Like, I'm not sure how good that is if you literally make the other content creators rage quit.
That's just my view. Like, I'm not there to ruin my game. I enjoy my game, and actually, quite funny. This meta show is the 10th anniversary of my Eve. I've been playing Eve officially 10 years as of today.
I'm not sure whether that's a congratulations or I'm terribly sorry.
Yeah, so I've hit 10 years. So, but yeah, like, what do you think? I mean, Falcon's been really quiet, enjoying his sleeping kitten. What do you think of the Sov warfare is right now compared to like Citadels?
You mean Dominion?
Yeah, no, Citadel mechanic now, like the Citadel mechanic, like with shooting Citadels and like keep stars and all that.
Okay.
I mean, from my personal point of view, at least, I think definitely they need a little bit of work. I know that the CSM are going to be talking a lot to various developers and various teams about the current state of Citadel mechanics, stuff like asset control, timers, and the issues that people have when they're fighting off time zone, basically. Because right now it is heavily biased towards defenders. In terms of, you know, being able to set the timers to whatever the hell you want, and then just setting them in your prime time zone, and it being difficult for anyone who's not in your time zone to counter. So it's yeah, I mean, it's something that I guess we'll probably be looking at sooner rather than later, I would imagine. And I know the guys over in game design have got some ideas for how they'd like to change things up, and they're going to talk to the CSM next week. So yeah, I think we'll definitely see some progress on it sooner rather than later. But I think it's going to be needed anyway, because, you know, with a big resource shake-up coming in the winter with the release of new moon mining and whatnot, I think we sort of need to get it nailed down, and we need to have at least some progress on it by then.
I mean, I think the thing that I've been expecting, and I'm not going to ask Falcon to mouth off on this because it wouldn't be appropriate, but basically the Citadel mechanics, they do need work. It seems weird to me from a sanity perspective that the cheapest of the Citadels are the least vulnerable. I think that if you're paying extra money for a Keepstar, like, I would prefer to see like the vulnerability windows on Keepstars swapped with Astrahuses. So if you're getting a deep Citadel, it's very vulnerable, and then as you're paying more and getting something that's more defensible and single point, it's less vulnerable. I think that the mechanics of Citadels my guess has always been that they were going to fix Fozzie Sov by simply bolting on either a infrastructure Citadel or having a mod on a Citadel that lets you, plant a flag in space, something like that. Because Citadel mechanics in general, at least they give you a kill mail.
You bring up an interesting point too, because if you look at the Satio, I think the Satio can be vulnerable up to 27 hours a week or something crazy. So you end up in a situation where if you're building Supers and Titans, that thing is beyond vulnerable for the cost.
Sitting.
Pauses were always vulnerable, and you used to build Super too. So.
Exactly. That's the thing is that in my view, like one of the biggest fucked up things about Citadels currently is particularly the Asterhuses were designed. The Asterhus and the Retire were designed to replace POS, right? So POS were always vulnerable. You could set when they would come out, and you would have 2 timers, right? It's really weird. I mean, 6 days in EVE Online is in any online game. 6 days is like a month of real human interacting with the outside world time. So like going, hey, you've got 2 timers, and then 6 days of wait before you come around. Like you forget about the thing.
Yeah,
by the
that's
time you get to an Asterhus.
Yeah.
Oh no, I mean it's nuts. So I mean I think that I would like to see these. I'm looking forward to hopefully having CCP take the good aspects of the Citadel mechanics and use them to replace the horrible, disgusting, pathetic, embarrassing, game ruining pile of garbage that has been FozzieSov. But obviously we need to, make the Citadels a little bit less defender biased. They are defender biased, and I'm saying that as the dude who has probably more Citadels than anybody in his alliance in Delve, making it basically cancer.
Or Keepstars, I mean?
I have no idea.
12,
I literally lost track of how many fucking Keepstars.
Hell, what's it called? Stain has a Keepstar now. They just announced this a couple days ago. Stain, of all places, has a Keepstar. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting. But one more thing. We were running out of time here. And I know you mentioned about defenders, but your opinion, I mean, you don't work on Citadels as far as I know, Falcon, what do you think about the fact that, like, if you drop an Astra House, it can live there forever if nobody bothers to shoot it? Do you think there should be, like, almost like an offline pause where eventually it just becomes super vulnerable?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'd kind of like to see them decay. I'd like to see them go offline. I'd like to see them be able to be captured, something like that. But obviously, I'm not a game designer, so my opinion is generally my own kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to personally, I'd like to see the ability for them to change hands as well, rather than just to be able to blow them up or for them to lie derelict. Would feel a lot better from my point of view. Yeah.
Oh, dude,
yeah,
that'd be nice.
stealing them would be absolutely hilarious. But like, I generally, whenever I talk about game mechanics in EVE, if I was like, if I had any sway over game design in EVE, it would be a horrible dark place, and no one would ever want to play the game probably, because like I would go back to the horrible core of like, you take over someone's Citadel and all their assets are locked down and they've got to pay to get them back, basically. Like, I would be terrible in terms of doing this.
That reminds me of something I thought about this week, and I didn't know if it'd be appropriate to suggest, because I know how much you hate FozzieSov Mittens, but make Intosicene possible on, like, a Citadel if nobody mans it. Like, if nobody is anywhere near that Citadel, you hack it for, like, 3 hours, and if in 3 hours' time you've sat there with your rapier hacking it and nobody's killed you, it's yours now.
I want to answer that by praising CCP, and what I'm going to praise them on is this. CCP has clearly matured. Not only have they learned to remove inactive CSM members, they have also learned to remove failed game mechanics. And I want to praise CCP for completely removing and shutting down the captain's quarters and just acting like that whole Incarna thing didn't happen. And so to answer your question, Boat, about intosicing things, I think that CCP should be praised for their maturity and simply acting like captain's quarters and Incarna didn't happen, and that we should all just collectively move on from any mechanic and simply act like it didn't exist. At one point in EVE, there was a captain's quarter and there was a door. At one point, there were these Sov laser and Tosis things, but we got over that. We moved on. There was a clean break. We took Intosis off Facebook. We're not returning her calls. We're moving forward.
Wait a minute. You're saying you didn't like looking at a blank wall? Look, man, I dreamed of the day when you could watch hookers in a virtual space game. Okay.
How about this? We'll make a separate area of EVE called the Boat Zone, and you can have and basically in the Boat Zone, you can have all of FozzieSov and the captain's quarters and everything, and it'll just be the Boat Zone.
See,
like,
you said,
welcome to the Boat Show, the Boat Zone.
We're running out of time, but you got to remember, you became space famous for spy work and like your mastery there. My space famous was I blew up someone's entire home, right? Like I blew up 2,000 POS and Delve and made Bob cry. So like things that make people like hate the game are just so enjoyable. It's so enjoyable. Sorry.
All right,
but we're out of time. Real quick, we have a couple of shout outs before we go. Chris Avis subscribed for 11 months, and then we had 2 donations in the form of whatever those things are called. Cheers.
$50. Very loud.
Yeah, from Crispy Glorious, $50, and then $10 from the same dude. So yeah.
So cheers like basically blow out because I'm on Skype here.
Yeah.
So is it just destroys everybody's ears when people?
Well, it comes
hear kind of
through.
thing?
It comes through OBS really loud. So like in the stream, if I was to find a way to mute it, which I don't know how to, but there's a way to lower it down. But we'll have to find out. But yeah. So woo.
Well, I want to thank Falcon for
Yes.
coming on as a guest, as well as Captain Patrick Archer, and apologize to both of you for being in the blast radius of my rants. And that's awesome. So thank you, everyone,
Yeah.
for watching,
Yeah.
and we will be doing this again. I'm not traveling for quite a few weeks, thank God, until Cancun in
It's 2
mid-September.
weeks.
I think 3...
2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that. No, let me look at my calendar here. 1, 2,
Yeah,
3
it's-
weeks. Yeah, 3 weeks. We got time.
So until we hit Goon Base 1. So I will be back around for the meta show on the next couple weeks. And thanks for coming and watching. And thanks
Oh,
to
we'll
our
do the meta
guests,
show
both of
from
you.
Vegas. We got internet there, or from whatever it's called, Cancun.
From
We'll-
Cancun.
Yes, we have internet. We have good internet apparently. So
Oh, actually, that'll be pretty cool.
I'll
So
bring
we'll
my
do the meta show
laptop.
there.
Yeah,
Sweet.
yeah, we'll do
Goon Base 1, live from Goon Base 1 before we get on the yacht. It'll be good.
All right, thank you, Falcon, again. Seriously, thank you.
Thanks, folks, and we will catch you all next week.
Have a good one, guys.
Remember me.
You are about to receive messages that may be harmful to your mental state. Your sense of reality will be questioned. Your view on things will be altered. You are now part of the meta. The meta controls everything. The meta determines what will and will not happen. You are watching the Meta Show.